Hey, this is Buck Dharma of Blue Oyster Cult, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Welcome to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. Today's show is brought to you by UppercutChops.com. Check out their tasty selection of all-natural, dry-aged USDA, prime Angus, and Wagyu steaks and chops. Wait till you taste their best-in-class New York steaks, the filet mignon, the king of all those giant cowboy cut and tomahawk cut ribeyes. Hell, wait till you try that short rib of beef. Wagyu, best I've ever had, mercy. Even the half-pound Wagyu burgers, best I've ever had, mercy. Again, UppercutChops.com. Check them out at UppercutChops.com or give them a call, find out what's for dinner, 714-948-0100, 714-948-0100, 714-948-0100 for UppercutChops.com. All right, welcome in everybody listening in on all of our radio and television affiliates, everybody watching on TV, everybody streaming on Pick Your Favorite Streamer, everybody on Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. Thanks for joining us over there. A fun group. Check that out, folks. A fun group. Talk about your favorite foods, your favorite restaurants, your favorite recipes. Make some friends, have some fun. Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. All right. Oh, and by the way, Vacation Buddies, our friends over at Vacation Buddies are giving away a couple of nights right here in Las Vegas, Orlando, Florida, or Branson, Missouri, if you can answer a simple trivia question. If you answer the question, you get it right. A couple of nights are yours. Compliments of Vacation Buddies. Here's the question. Which of these three cities is home of the tallest building in America? Is it New York, Chicago, or Los Angeles? If you know the answer, call 888-576-5777, 888-576-5777. Vacation Buddies is not affiliated with this station, but they want to give you a couple of nights in fabulous Las Vegas, Orlando, Florida, or Branson, Missouri. If you know the answer to that very easy trivia question, if so, call 888-576-5777. Call now. Now, for all you that have been watching college football over and over and over, it's time to start digging in to college basketball. That's right. And look, let's get you caught up on the unbeatens, maybe some surprise teams in college basketball. And of course, now that football is over, we can kind of concentrate on it. But hey, listen, that was a fun run. College football had a great ending, and it took all the way to January 19th, which of course was later than the first 12 Super Bowls, in case you're keeping score, for anyone to really even imagine what has gone on. And believe me, Indiana had a great season, and it was a great run, and good for them. And hey, listen, on the hard court, it's a different story, but I'll tell you what, on the gridiron, this year it was Indiana and then everybody else. That's right, everybody else. But in case you're wondering what you've missed, here we go. I mean, look, first of all, you have not missed an Arizona loss or a Nebraska loss, believe it or not, or even Miami of Ohio. How do you like that? They're as perfect as, of course, Indiana's football team was, and Arizona was picked to finish fourth in the Big 12, by the way. Nebraska has never won an NCAA tournament game, and Miami of Ohio has missed the last 17 NCAA tournaments. But at the moment, they're a combined 55-0, those three schools, with only 10 of the wins by 5 points or less. Imagine that. So, you missed some early leapfrogging at the top of the polls. First, Purdue was number one, then Houston, then Purdue again, and Michigan was there too. And of course, with the coaches, but Arizona moved into the number one slot in December and looks very much at home now with this 18-0 record. Hell, we only have about 12, 13 games left in the regular season, something like that. And of course, you missed a historic early wave the Wildcats surf to get there. That'd be Arizona. Picking off 5 ranked opponents in their first 9 games. And they haven't played anyone ranked since then, but they haven't been chased to the buzzer. And that's really by anybody, but then again, they're not playing the ranked teams. So their closest games in 2 months have been 7 points. They're 5-0 in Big 12 play and have trailed for just 12 minutes. So what does that tell you about the Big 12? It tells you the Big 12 is pretty good, but not great. If you look at the non-conference games, that's really a measuring stick to where they are, who they play against, who they did play against, and what's in the future. So, yeah, Arizona is something, sort of an anomaly. In this 3-point happy age, Arizona is 351st in the nation in 3-point attempts. And it is possible to win big these days without always bombing away, isn't it? Well, look, you missed Nebraska climbing to number 7 in the AP, higher than the Huskers have ever been before. But they've never won 22 games in a row before either. And it's been a season of rare achievement in Lincoln. Look, this is like Indiana, but this time Nebraska in basketball. Maybe, I don't know. Nebraska went unbeaten in non-conference play for the first time since 1928 and is 7-0 in league play for the first time since 1966. And of course, the 22-game streak is the longest for any Big Ten team in 15 years. No, the Huskers shouldn't be 0-8 all time in the NCAA tournament much longer. You really wouldn't imagine, but hey, you never know. I mean, look, what else did you miss? Well, look, you missed a gaggle of teams getting to January 20th with just 1 loss. 8 of them. In fact, you think it's hard to win a national title with no defeats? Well, last year, the last was Indiana. That's right, same. They did it 50 years ago. But it was even harder to do with 1 loss. It's been 52 years since the last single defeat champion, NC State. That's the old Jim Valvano stuff, right around there. Now, you missed UConn starting 8-0 in the Big East. The last time the Huskies did that was 1999. They've won 6 national titles since then. They're 5-1 this season against ranked opponents. And the 1 loss was a 4-pointer to Arizona, the number 1 team. The only team in front of them is now them in the AP. That's it, being UConn and Arizona. That's your 1-2 right now. So you also missed the doings of the Big Ten Basher twins, Michigan and Purdue. Michigan has played 17 games and led by double figures in 16, even the one the Wolverines lost at home to Wisconsin. And they still own the season's most exciting win. Well, I don't know if it's that, maybe the most dazzling win. Blowing through San Diego State, Auburn, and Gonzaga by 40, 30, and 40 points. And it took until last Saturday for Purdue to play a game settled by closer than 7 points. And of course that one, 69-64 win over USC. And Purdue, their one misstep, it kind of was a big one, but they lost to a really good team. And it was Iowa State coming into Mackey Arena and winning the game. And the reality is, Iowa State just fell from number 2 in the first place. So the 1 loss they have, it was a very, very good one in the grand scheme of things. Now, of course, what else did you miss? You missed Duke being Duke, rolling through the schedule with freshman power. That's what they do, with Cameron Boozer leading the way. The Blue Devils are 8-1 in quad 1 games in the net world of the NCAA and have kept a chokehold on the ACC, winning 28 of their last 29 against league opponents. That's pretty damn good. And of course, the 1 loss this season, it was kind of a weird one. It was by 1 point to Texas Tech, but they let a 17-point lead get away. So should Duke be the number 1 team? No, not right now. But they are awfully good. And they are good. Did I mention they're good? So there was also a unique moment in Durham on New Year's Eve. While you were probably watching Miami escort Ohio State to the exit in the college football playoff, the Boozer family was taking up 40% of Duke's lineup and accounting for 46% of scoring as Cameron and Caden both started in the Devils' 85-79 win over Georgia Tech. Cameron had 26, Caden had 13, and they became the first documented set of twin brothers to start a game for Duke since 1942 and 43 season. Man, that's a long time ago. And in fact, that deserves an astounding round of applause. Yes! Boy, that's good stuff. Boy, you don't hear that very often. And let's face it, you're just in time to see one-loss Houston on a roll. That's what else you missed. Last week, the Cougars stampeded Arizona State by 30, opening up on a 30-5 run. That is absolute insanity. However, 5 days earlier, they blew out West Virginia by 29, and they got up to a 28-5 lead. Same. So they allowed 3 field goals in the first 8.5 minutes of both games combined. That's insanity. Yeah, that sounds like Houston, all right. And of course, the Cougars were lost in the shuffle a bit earlier by the glamour of the other teams and so forth and so on. But let's face it, they play a very rough and tumble game. In fact, when we come back from break, we're going to continue on with what you've missed because there's quite a bit. Now, I have to admit, I spent a lot more time on college football than college basketball, but I really don't start digging into college basketball until about the second or third week of January anyway, because now they're really getting into conference play. The rankings are the rankings. Like in college football, they shouldn't have any rankings before November 1st, and frankly, they shouldn't have any real rankings from college hoops until at least January 15th. Back here in a few minutes on The Circus. Don't go anywhere.
Attention business owners, you and your customers are listening to this right now. Face it, every business needs customers, even yours. The Sports Circus is a primetime nationally syndicated program that's carried on ABC, NBC, CNBC, and Westwood One News affiliates, plus CBS, Fox, and NBC sports affiliates across North America with coverage from Hawaii to New York. Also, the Sports Circus is available to the 180 million subscribers on iHeartRadio, and the Sports Circus gets about 4 million website visitors per month, which could click through your website and bring sales. The Sports Circus provides great content featuring celebrity guests from sports and entertainment to our audience every weekday, which your company could greatly benefit from by increasing your visibility, foot traffic, eyeballs to your website, and calls from potential customers. Call us right now at
714-948-0100. Again, 714-948-0100.
Or email us at info@thesportscircus.com. That's info@thesportscircus.com. Drive your sales today by advertising with the Sports Circus.
Do you know someone with a drug or alcohol problem? Get help right now. Insurance may cover everything. Stop the drug and alcohol nightmare. Are drug and alcohol problems hitting you too close to home? Get help right now. Insurance may cover everything.
800-831-1560. 800-831-1560. 800-831-1560. That's 800-831-1560.
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. Beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. Beepinautos.com. BEEPIN autos.com. Beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UpperCutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UpperCutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UpperCutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door. store without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at uppercutchops.com or call 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. Or make your selection directly at uppercutchops.com.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm Roy Firestone. Now it's time to throw it back to Sal.
Thank you, Roy, and welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. This segment brought to you in part by your friends over at the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. Check them out at csncoyotes.com for upcoming games and events. That's the College of Southern Nevada Athletics, csncoyotes.com. Check them out, folks. All right, welcome back to everybody listening in on our CBS, NBC, and Fox Sports affiliates and independents from coast to coast, including our friends over in Honolulu on CBS Sports 1500 KHKA. That's home of the 49ers, New York Yankees, and the Alabama Crimson Tide. Welcome into everybody else up and down the West Coast, driving between sunny Southern California and right here in Las Vegas, listening in on Highway Country Radio 101.5 FM and 107.3 FM. That's home of the Las Vegas Raiders, home of the Vegas Golden Knights, and of course the Sports Circus at 7 p.m. Monday through Friday. Up and down the Midwest, out to our friends over in Auburn, Alabama. Thanks for tuning in on WAUD, home of the Atlanta Braves, and that's between Montgomery, Alabama, and Columbus, Georgia, right there out of Auburn, War Eagle. And our friends waking up with us over in Atlanta, WDJY 99.1 FM. And that's at 8 a.m. Monday through Friday. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, our antenna is right there out of a town called Dallas, Georgia. And not to be confused with Dallas, Texas. It's actually Dallas, Georgia. Anyway, thanks for all of those listeners, as well as everybody watching on Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Spectrum, WOW, Charter, and independent cable affiliates from coast to coast. Thanks for doing that as well. And everybody on Hotel TV. Of course, that's where applicable. And Hotel TV, again, same. And everybody's streaming on Pick Your Favorite Streamer. By the way, our friends over at Vacation Buddies gave away a couple of nights right here in Las Vegas, Orlando, Florida, or Branson, Missouri. If you know the answer to the simple trivia question I gave at the top of the show, I'm going to repeat it in case you're just tuning in right now. If you know the answer, call the number I give you right afterwards and claim your 2 free nights in Las Vegas, Orlando, Florida, or Branson, Missouri. The question is this: which of these 3 cities is home to the tallest building in America? Is it New York, Chicago, or Los Angeles? If you know the answer, call 888-576-5777, 888-576-5777, 888-576-5777. Vacation Buddies is not affiliated with us or this station. However, they want to give you a couple of nights in Las Vegas, Orlando, Florida, or Branson, Missouri. Call 888-576-5777 if you know the answer to that very simple trivia question. All right, going over what you may have missed. In case you're just tuning in to college basketball right about now, that college football is over with. I mean, look, you may have heard about the mighty exploits of Iowa State and Vanderbilt, and have been surprised to find out them downgraded a few spots in the new polls. These are 2 very good squads. In fact, Purdue's only lost came at home to, at that time, if I'm not mistaken, ranked number 2 Iowa State. However, downgraded a little bit. Barely more than a week ago, they were both 2 of the last unbeaten teams and living charmed lives, of course. So Iowa State, they did beat Purdue, and of course, gave them 3 wins in a row against the number 1 team. That's pretty damn good. And all were away from home. That makes Iowa State a very dangerous squad. Vanderbilt had special moments, such as taking its number 11 rating and beating number 13 Alabama The first top 15 matchup in the Commodore's house since 1974. That's right, and they did it. But it's hard to stay spotless on such a dusty landscape. And the two went a combined 0-4 last week. Not very good, but you might be wondering what the defending national champions have been up to. Just about the time bowl season began, Florida was 5-4 and had its masses. Look, it was just a little bit worrisome for their followers and fans and so forth. They're just a tad bit worried. But the offense was long overdue. And look, let's face it, the offense was one long clang of missed jumpers as well. As a matter of fact, their coach said, quote, "If we start to make some shots, we're going to be able to run away from some people." Close quote. Now, he said that along the way. Look, he wasn't kidding. The Gators have won 8 of 9, and in the last 4 rang up 92, 91, 96, and 98 against Georgia, Tennessee, Oklahoma, Vanderbilt. A couple of good squads in there. And the first time in school history, they've hit 90 points in 4 consecutive SEC games. That's pretty damn good. And also, what else have you missed? Well, you find Kansas at number 19. And if you had been around last week, you wouldn't have found Kansas in the rankings at all. In fact, it's been a journey for Bill Self trying to keep his freshman phenom, Darren Peterson, healthy. And now he's been in the hospital with issues of his own. Imagine that. Kansas is kind of a mess right now, yet they're still ranked number 19. Had Kansas not scrambled back from a 15-point down in the last 5 minutes to beat TCU in overtime, its Big 12 start would have been 0-3, unheard of in Lawrence, Kansas, in case you're keeping score. But whipping Iowa State by 21, that's a real head-scratcher there, and Baylor by 18 last week, well, would basically mean that they're kind of finding their feet, and who knows, maybe they're back on the road to recovery. But at 19, I think they're already recovered. But you might be wondering what St. Louis is doing at number 24. That's right, the Billikens. And that's what a 17-1 record and leading the nation in scoring margin will get you. These guys are pretty damn good. How about Miami? Miami of Ohio, that is, at number 25. The Red Hawks hadn't been ranked this century, but possibly nobody's season has been more magical than theirs. 19-0 and the best field goal percentage, both in overall and three-pointers in the country. So whatever it's taken so far, Miami has done it. Just this past weekend, the Red Hawks went to overtime, down to Buffalo, 105-103. That's right. So look at it this way. They hadn't allowed 100 points in a game and won in 39 years, and they did it. But looking for St. John's, think about that. The team that began number 4 in the polls, where the hell are they? Or Kentucky, who started out as number 9. Go down to the also received votes bunch. That's right. So they're getting votes. And both had early mishaps and have shown some kind of life. But the Red Storm, who used to be the St. John, what the hell they call the Redmen? I don't even know. The Red? Who knows? In any event, I'm thinking back Louis Carr's second days. So St. John have reeled off 4 wins in a row and are now 13-5, but still haven't beaten a ranked opponent. Kentucky was in a crisis mode after losing at home to Missouri, who had been 0-9 all time in Lexington, to drop to 9-6. Now what? Since the Wildcats have been behind a lot, why not turn into the comeback kids? And in fact, 3 wins since, they've rallied from 12, 18, and 17 points down to beat Miss State, LSU, and Tennessee. There's Tennessee again in that group. And you're here just when Kentucky's getting interesting. Now, back to Tennessee. That Tennessee game got the Vols booted from this week's polls, but it was only the second time since 17 Tennessee lost after leading a home game at halftime. And the only other loss was last season. By who? By Kentucky. Well, that's a little bit strange, but then again, you've missed a lot. So how about this? How about the nation's top scoring average of 24.1 for Tarleton State's Dior Johnson? Here's a little known fact. Who is a guy that's playing in the Houston Texans team? I saw him on TV. He's actually a friend of the Sports Circus. And who is their big guy that's playing in the NFL from Tarleton State? That would be E.J. Speed. What a hell of a linebacker for the Houston Texans. Anyway, yeah, so I think of Tarleton State, of course, I always think of E.J. Anyway, so yeah, nation's top scorer comes from Tarleton State, and that is Dior Johnson. And he always comes off the bench, which begs the question if someone could actually be the scoring champion and never start a game. Who knew? And the thrill ride that has been Virginia Tech's. The Hokies are 4-0 in overtime games and just completed a ridiculous 6-game spree when they won in overtime by 1 point, in triple overtime by 10, lost by 3, and won in regulation, won by 3, and then lost by 1. The last loss was at SMU 77-76, where the Mustangs went 2-14 in three-pointers and then buried a half-court shot at the buzzer to win the game. How ridiculous is that? That 14-5 overall VOTech record should be an attraction, of course, at Disney World when you think about it. And next to it should be the Providence roller coaster. Yes, the Friars. Those guys put up 104 against Marquette, 98 against UConn, 110 against Butler, 101 against VOTech, and lost all 4 games. That's ridiculous. There were 51 ties, 68 lead changes, and they're 0-4 in overtime and 9-6 in regulation. You also missed Michigan State beating Cornell, 114-97 in a complete shootout, and Sparty hadn't won a game while allowing 97 points since 1964. Auburn losing to Michigan, Purdue, Houston, and Arizona. Why that matters? Well, is those 4 teams have been ranked in the AP's top at number 1. So Auburn, although they have lost some tough games, let me tell you something. Those guys are pretty damn good in basketball. And if you're losing to number 1 teams, hey, it is what it is. Maybe you'll get them in the tournament. Back here in a few minutes on the Circus. Don't go anywhere.
If I was your mother and you had a drug problem, I'd grab you by the ear and make you call and get help. You can be in treatment tomorrow and start to get clean in 7 days. Follow Mom's advice and call the Detox and Treatment Helpline now. Write this number down.
800-814-8628. 800-814-8628. 800-814-8628. That's 800-814-8628.
Are you or someone you love struggling with an addiction to drugs or alcohol and want to be set free from the chains of addiction? Then call Addiction Helpline America right now to get the help you need. From drug and alcohol addiction to dual diagnosis treatment, we provide a confidential helpline to help people like you get sober and live happy, substance-free lives.
Treatment helped me get my life back. I was so addicted, the only person I could focus on was myself and what I needed. I hit rock bottom and lost everything. Through treatment, I was able to overcome those demons and focus on my family again.
I used until I overdosed and almost died. That was the end of the road for me. After seeking treatment, I now have hope. I learned skills that help me deal with life on life's terms.
800-426-4994. 800-426-4994. 800-426-4994. That's 800-426-4994.
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. Beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. Beepinautos.com. BEEPIN autos.com. Beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.
Investors, keep listening to learn how to get your free gold report. A currency crisis is upon us. The U.S. dollar has been the world's reserve currency for over 50 years, but that is changing. It's time to protect your retirement. Decades of reckless borrowing and spending have critically weakened the dollar. The U.S. has become the world's biggest debtor with over $35 trillion in debt. Plus, the dollar's become weaponized. Countries are dumping it. Investors who wait until it's too late could lose big. There is one safe haven: gold. Diversify your portfolio with a physical asset they can't take away. Call the Reagan Gold Group right now and ask for your free gold guide. Here's our number:
800-876-7041. 800-876-7041. 800-876-7041. That's 800-876-7041.
Hey everyone, Dave Jackson here, ESPN rules analyst on ESPN Hockey, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster, Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. This segment brought to you in part by the Sports Circus. Make sure you check out thesportscircus.com for upcoming guests, or prior guests, or recorded shows which can be found on Apple, Amazon, Audible, Spotify, Pandora, iHeart, Stitcher, Deezer, YouTube, plus a whole bunch of others. Also, check out the partners page. Lots of great partners at thesportscircus.com. Our favorite is Al's Number One Italian Beef, 1079 West Taylor Street in Chicago's Little Italy. That's Al's Number One Italian Beef, 1079 West Taylor Street in Chicago's Little Italy. They've been serving up great food since 1938, and hopefully they'll be doing it for another, 200 or 300 years. Who the hell knows? Anyway, check them out at alsbeef.com if you can't get down to Chicago's Little Italy, and that is alsbeef.com. Read about the creation of the Italian beef sandwich about 118 years ago. Their family did it. They've been in business for a very long time, serving up great food. Tell you what, folks, it's my favorite. I don't get a damn thing for saying it, but guess what? These are our friends, and we want to make sure that we call them out. Speaking of friends, a very, very dear friend named Melissa has a birthday coming up on the 24th of January. And of course, we wanted to wish her an early happy birthday. This is the birthday week. People like to celebrate that. And I have to tell you, this is one of my favorite people on planet Earth, probably my favorite human overall. And so a very, very happy birthday to a beautiful person and a glorious, glorious, wow, beautiful-eyed woman. That would be Melissa from Bay City, Michigan. Man, I love that girl. All right, thanks for tuning in, and also welcome back to everybody, of course, on our CBS, NBC, and Fox Sports affiliates, and continuing on with what you've missed in college basketball, in case you're just tuning in to college basketball, that is. Let's face it, folks, you've probably missed a lot. I've gone over this for just a little bit. I'm going to continue on with it because I can, and most people are paying attention to college basketball, or college football, I should say, ignoring college basketball largely because of the whole college football playoff and all that. All right, we know what happened there. Let's get back to it. Gonzaga is starting 19-1 with 16 of the wins by double digits and the loss by 40. Also, Mark Few reaching his 750th win in 903 games. That's pretty damn good. Second fastest in Division I history. Kentucky's Adolph Rupp beat him by 1 game. Now, in case you don't know, Gonzaga is going to be a part-time member. And when I say a part of the Pac-12, they'll be a part-time member for basketball only. Kind of like when you look at the ACC, where out of 24 sports, Notre Dame is only a participant in 23 sports because they don't want to be a member in football. And you know what? Because they don't want to be a member of football, it kept them out of the college football playoff situation in the first place. Good. Absolutely good. That's great stuff. And if you don't like it, too bad. Join a conference, and then you won't have that problem. Join the ACC full-time as a full-time member, not just as a selective. And so no college football? Well, guess what? Gonzaga only says we're going to have college basketball only in the Pac-12, which is a badly depleted Pac-12 conference in the first place because all the good stuff went away to the Big Ten and the Big 12. Remember, USC, UCLA, Washington, and Oregon all go to the Big Ten. And the Big 12 picked up Arizona, Arizona State, Utah, Colorado. Who else did they pick up? That's what, 4 teams. They picked up the balance. So that's 8 teams. There was a couple of others that I'm missing in there, but it doesn't really matter at this point. The point is the Big 12 absorbed everything else, and the Pac-12 had 2, which was Oregon State and Washington State, and then they've backfilled with the likes of no real strong universities in the first place and no research institutes that are really mentionable, in my opinion. Now you've got, San Diego State, Fresno State, San Jose State, Sacramento State, University of Texas, El Paso. You see where I'm going with this, folks? They filled with a bunch of second-rate, Boise State, a bunch of academic-wise, second-rate institutions, in my opinion. So Gonzaga joined the ranks of the Pac-12 on a part-time basis. So that's why we mentioned Gonzaga in this. Now, of course, back to what you've missed in college basketball, Louisville finally defeating Kentucky and, of course, the Cardinals coach, Pat Kelsey. So excited afterwards that, guess what he did? He dislocated his finger while celebrating. That's the guy. How about Northern Iowa? Northern Iowa coming back to life, edging out UC Irvine. The Anteaters have been really good. Well, Northern Iowa may be resurfacing again. But remember, those 2 teams combined for 7 points in the last 8 seconds of overtime. That's crazy. Dai Ames scoring 7 points in the final 11 seconds as Cal, the Bears, beat Notre Dame. And of course, anytime we say that kind of thing, it always deserves an astounding round of applause. Yes! We always like to see those guys from South Bend not do so well. It is what it is, folks. Anyway, Chicago State. This is an interesting squad. Let me tell you something, man. These guys, they historically stink. And I mean, they are terrible. However, and you can always count on them not beating the spread, but those guys somehow have a little bit of life. And they're coming to life on the south side. They're like the 8th choice for Chicago area student athletes, maybe in the basketball world. But yeah, Chicago State leading Stonehill 71-69 with less than 1 second left, having possession of the ball, and somehow, in their lack of infinite wisdom, found a way to lose the game. Oh, that's right. Stonehill wins 85-82. Chicago State is 2-17. So a nightmare ending like that is the last thing the Cougars need. Those guys were already bad, but that's ridiculous. I don't ever recall ever seeing anything like it. What else did you miss? Well, you missed Leeds melting like they were in a microwave. Belmont was down 25 to Drake with just over 17 left and won on a backdoor layup with less than a second to go. What else? San Diego State was up 24 on Boise State and ended up needing to go to 3 overtimes to win the game. How about New Hampshire? They trailed the Terriers of Boston U by 25. Somehow they find a way to win, but also led Harvard by 20 and lost. That's right. How about Texas Tech? Let's go to the Big 12. Texas Tech was up on Colorado by 24 with just over 13 minutes to go and just escaped with a 2-point win. Colorado had a shot to win in the final second and blew it. How about a team gets up 15 points and it's not supposed to lose? Well, that's already happened 82 times this season. Yeah, a lot's gone on indoors while you were away watching touchdowns in college football. Now that Indiana's finished 16-0 in football, we can place, the feet of the next 32-0 record from the 1976 Indiana Hoosiers put up in basketball. Now we can kind of focus on that. And the most recent perfect season in both sports now belongs, believe it or not, to Indiana. Maybe they could sell t-shirts with Bob Knight on the back and Kurt Signetti on the front, neither smiling. Of course, if you know these two characters, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Those guys just, they hard-nosed. And they could be the greatest day of their lives. You just wouldn't see a smile out of them. It's unbelievable. But good for them. As for the current basketball Hoosiers, they've lost 3 in a row and are 12-6. But maybe things will improve now that the fan base is not so distracted by, that's right, Mr. Mendoza. And maybe the nation will notice the extraordinary resurgence of the Miami Hurricanes in basketball, which has largely been hidden until now by their football run. Miami went 7-24 overall and 3-17 in the ACC last season. At the moment, Miami, with a new coach, is 15-3 and 4-1 in conference play. I mean, if you think that's not an enormous turnaround, I don't know what is. That is nuts. In the grand scheme of things, you just don't see that happening. Really. It's the sort of a turnaround that not only do you scratch your head, but you say, well, how the hell did that happen? How does a team turn it around when, you've got a transfer portal and all this other stuff, but that is a complete 180. That's a complete turn the opposite direction for those that don't know basic geometry and this kind of thing. My point is, it's awful hard to turn around after just, let's say you lose 10 games, whatever, and you turn around, then you lose maybe 5 games the next year, maybe 3 games the next year, you go undefeated the next year, whatever it is. The point is, it's so hard to turn it around, especially in the day and age of the transfer portal, which I think is the worst thing that ever happened as far as college sports go. But you look at this and say, if the coaching really doesn't change, and if, let's just say, a school doesn't have a bunch of money to turn it around, then a lot of things change in the grand scheme of things. Back here in a few minutes on The Circus. Don't go anywhere.
Stop it! Stop it! Stop it!
I'm your ringmaster Sal of the Sports Circus, a primetime nationally syndicated television, radio, sports, and entertainment show. The Sports Circus covers topics others are too scared to talk about. There's no other primetime show like it out here that'll punch you in the face and you'll beg for more. Join me, Hall of Famers, world champions, and all-star celebrity guests for chaos and controversy here on Libsyn and all podcast platforms, plus thesportscircus.com. Remember, folks, it's a circus and we prove it every day.
Do you own a timeshare? Well, face the facts. You made a mistake. You made a bad purchase. A timeshare is not an investment. It's a money pit that continues forever. If you use your timeshare, that's great. But if you don't, and you want to legally get out of your contract, call my friends right now at the Timeshare Exit Hotline. They're an experienced team of lawyers who help good people like you get out of a timeshare contract that they just don't want. Don't throw away your money on maintenance fees. Use it for things you really want. We can help you end your timeshare contract and stop the money drain immediately. If you're ready to move on with your timeshare, call our team right now.
Cancel your timeshare now with a free call. 800-298-3173. 800-298-3173. 800-298-3173. That's 800-298-3173.
Are you or someone you love struggling with an addiction to drugs or alcohol and want to be set free from the chains of addiction? Then call Addiction Helpline America right now to get the help you need. From drug and alcohol addiction to dual diagnosis treatment, we provide a confidential helpline to help people like you get sober and live happy, substance-free lives.
Treatment helped me get my life back. I was so addicted, the only person I could focus on was myself and what I needed. I hit rock bottom and lost everything. Through treatment, I was able to overcome those demons and focus on my family again.
I used until I overdosed and almost died. That was the end of the road for me. After seeking treatment, I now have hope. I learned skills that help me deal with life on life's terms.
800-426-4994. 800-426-4994. 800-426-4994. That's 800-426-4994.
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. beepinautos.com. B-E-E-P-I-N autos.com. beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.
Hey everybody, this is Brian Urlacher. Welcome back to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. Folks, make sure you check out the store at thesportscircus.com. Lots of great items over there. Hats, hoodies, t-shirts, travel mugs, coffee mugs, pillows, blankets, sweat coats, sweatpants, all kinds of neat stuff. And again, they all have the Clever Sports Circus logo on them, so make sure you pick something up at the store at thesportscircus.com. Pick up an extra 10% off by mentioning me, your Ringmaster Sal, for your discount. All right, welcome back to everybody. You know who you are. And by the way, we want to make sure that we let you know that in case you've missed out on what's going on in college basketball because you've been paying attention to football, today's show is dedicated to exactly that. We just spent the last few segments basically catching you up on what is going on. Now let's take a look at the standings real quick in case you don't know what the hell's going on. First, let's look at the rankings, then the standings. All right, first, those receiving votes, which I did mention before. NC State gets 1, A&M, Texas A&M gets 2, Villanova 3, SMU 3, St. Mary's 4, very good team, St. Mary's every year. George Mason 10, Miami, I just mentioned Miami in the last segment. Miami, that's down in Florida. They went from that awful season to, wow, they're actually playing good ball. Central Florida 14, Utah State 15, Tennessee 20, Kentucky 27, Iowa 30, St. John 64, Wisconsin 64, top 25, Miami of Ohio. This is the Associated Press top 25, by the way, 19-0, ranked number 25. St. Louis, the Billikens 17-1, 24. Louisville 13-5, ranked number 23. Carolina 14-4, ranked 22. Georgia 15-3, ranked 21. Arkansas, 2 more losses in the SEC. Somehow Arkansas is ranked 1 spot ahead of Georgia at number 20. Kansas 13-5, ranked number 19. Clemson 16-3, ranked 18. Alabama 13-5, ranked 17. Florida number 16, 13-5. A lot of 13-5 teams. Vanderbilt with their 2 losses, number 15 and 16-2. Va-Tech, or actually the University of Virginia, the Wahoos, 16-2, ranked number 14. The Cougars of Brigham Young, 16-2, ranked number 13. Red Raiders, Texas Tech, 14-4, number 12. Illinois, ranked number 11, 15-3. Sparty, 16-2, ranked number 10. Iowa State, 16-2, ranked number 9. The Zags, number 8 at 19-1. Nebraska is number 7 at 18-0. That's right, Nebraska. You heard that right. Houston, 17-1, number 6. My Blue Devils from Duke University, 17-1, ranked number 5. And my Purdue Boilermakers undergrad, 17-1, number 4. Michigan, 16-1, somehow is ranked above Purdue. I don't get it. They shouldn't be. They're number 3. UConn, 18-1, number 2. And Arizona still undefeated, 18-0 at number 1. So looking at that, you say, well, it's not much different than the other rankings. We're not going to get into that right now, but I do want to get into these standings. I'm going to start with the ACC because we can't Duke number 1 in the ACC, 6-0, 17-1. Clemson also undefeated in conference play at 6-0. Now moving on to the American East Conference, the Catamounts of Vermont. They're 3-0, 11-7 overall. The only way they're going to get the tournament is by winning the conference. And behind them by a half a game is UMass Lowell and New Jersey Institute of Technology, NJIT, the perennial doormats of college basketball, not so fast. Over in the American Conference, Florida Atlantic, 12-6 overall, 4-1 in conference play. They sit a half a game ahead of the Green Wave of Tulane at 3-1, and South Florida the Bulls at 3-1, and the Temple Owls at 3-1, and the Memphis Tigers at 3-1. All a half a game out in the American Conference, almost halfway through the season. The Atlantic Sun has Queens down in North Carolina, in case you don't know, undefeated in conference play at 6-0. One game behind them is Austin Peay, who is usually right there, and so is Lipscomb at 5-1. They sit one game back in the Atlantic Sun. Over in the Atlantic 10, it's the Billikens of St. Louis. You know, folks, if you don't know about them, you better look at their history, man. These guys can ball. They are good. They're 17-1, and they won their last 11. And right on their heels is George Mason, also tied in the Atlantic 10, 5-0, and they've won their last 8 games. The Dayton Flyers are 5-0. It just seems like every year those guys are good. I don't know. I mean, boy, I don't understand how they haven't won a national title, but man, they are competing every year. There's a big logjam at 3-2 teams that sit a couple of games behind. We don't care about those right now. If they start to have some closeness, then we'll go ahead and do that. My Loyola Ramblers, well, they've seen better days. They're not doing very well. We're just going to leave them there, but they are ahead of St. Bonnie's. The Bonnies at St. Bonaventure. Believe it or not, they're actually ahead of one squad in there. Now, in the Big 12, of course, we mentioned Arizona. They're at 5-0, undefeated, number 1. Houston sits a half a game behind them at 4-0 in conference. Only one loss, by the way, overall. BYU sits a full game behind, along with Texas Tech a full game behind at 4-1. Over in the Big East, UConn, as I mentioned, number 2. They are ranked number 2, 18-1 overall, and they are in first place in the Big East. And they sit a game and a half ahead of St. John's. And they actually sit 2.5 ahead of Villanova, Creighton, 3.5 Creighton. They're a little bit down this year, but every year they're usually pretty darn good. So there's still a lot of basketball to be played over in the Big East. Over in the Big Sky Conference is Portland State 5-0, Montana 4-1, Weber State 4-2. But you'll probably see Portland State win this conference and find themselves in the tournament. They're a pretty good squad. Over in the Big South, I'm a big fan of High Point. High Point is in first. Again, as I mentioned earlier in the season, I figured that High Point would rise to the top, and right now that's exactly what they've done. 17-4 overall, 5-1 overall in the Big South. Now, Winthrop also is 5-1, but the tiebreaker right now goes to High Point. Radford sits a half a game behind at 4-1. Over in the Big Ten, it is Nebraska and Purdue both at 7-0. Michigan, 6-1, somehow is ranked ahead of Purdue, which I don't understand it. Somebody's going to have to explain this one. Sparty is tied with them at 6-1. Illinois is tied with them at 6-1. And the Big Ten always is just loaded with good basketball. Let's face it, even the bottom team in the Big Ten is 7-10 overall. That's pretty darn good. Over in the Big West, it is the Rainbow Warriors of Hawaii at 5-2 in conference, tied with UC Irvine, the Anteaters, both 5-2. Hawaii 13-4 overall. UC Irvine 12-7 overall. The winner is going to come down to one of those two. Although UC San Diego, the Tritons are playing very good basketball, 14-5 overall. They sit a game behind the leaders, but it just seems like UC Irvine and Hawaii will be on top. That's just what happens lately in the Big West Conference. Over in the CAA, it is UNCW at 6-0. That's right, UNCW at 6-0, 17-2 overall. That's nuts, folks. Hofstra sits 2 games, a solid 2 games behind. And Elon is the same. And College of Charleston is the same. But UNCW is probably going to not only win the conference, they will get in the playoffs, or they'll get into the tournament no matter what. But I believe they will win everything over there. How about Conference USA? Liberty, that's right, Liberty, 7-0. Sit 2 games ahead of Middle Tennessee, 2.5 ahead of Kennesaw, Western Kentucky, 2.5. Western Kentucky is always good every year. Missouri State, they sit the same, and Jacksonville State, the same. So there's a logjam for second, but Liberty's going to run away with this one. They'll make the tournament anyway. Over in the Horizon League, perennial powerhouse, Wright State. Yep, they're right back there in first place, and that just seems to be where they belong. And Wright State, if I'm not mistaken, I think I don't know how many times they have won that division in a row or that conference in a row, but I've got to tell you, how many championships they've won, boy, those guys are pretty damn good in basketball. Let's just kind of leave it like that. They're awfully good. So they sit 1 game ahead of Green Bay, 1 game ahead of Oakland, which is out of Michigan, in case you don't know. That's out of the Detroit area. Purdue Fort Wayne, they sit 2 games ahead of them, and everybody else, it doesn't matter. Over in the Ivy League, and you basically have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams that are 2-1 in conference play, but overall, Yale has the best record out of everybody. So in first is Yale, Penn, Harvard, Dartmouth, Princeton, but Yale is the clear-cut champion in basketball outside of that, unless you want to include Columbia, who is 1-2. Columbia really sits a game and a half behind Yale in overall 1 loss. That's, I guess, one way to look at that one. How about the MAAC, in case you don't know, right? Mid-Atlantic. St. Peter's, 7-1. Merrimack, 7-1. Marist sits 1 game behind at 6-2. And who is the best team out of all those? I'm going to argue it's Marist. And then there's a host of others behind them. Over in the Mid-American Conference, Miami of Ohio cracked the top 25, 19-0, 7-0 in conference. They've won 19 in a row. Pretty exciting, of course. The Akron Zips, which, of course, the doormat in football, somehow has turned it around in football, and now they're playing really good in basketball. They're 5-1 in conference play, 14-4 overall, the same as the Flashes, the Golden Flashes of Kent State. Also 5-1 in conference play, 14-4 overall. Then there's a drop to Toledo, the Bobcats of Ohio, Buffalo, the Bulls, and Bowling Green, and so forth. Over in the MEAC, it's UMES at 4-0 in conference, but 8-13 overall. NC Central, 3-1. They sit 1 game behind UMES, and they're 7-12. The best team in that entire conference overall is Howard at 2-2 in conference play, but 11-8 overall. Howard's the only team which actually has played above 500 basketball in that entire conference. Boy, talk about the doormat. Over in the Mountain West, San Diego State 7-0, 1 game ahead of Utah State, 2 games ahead of New Mexico and Nevada, 2.5 against the Grand Canyon ahead of them. Over in the Missouri Valley, the Murray State Racers, 8-0 in conference play. They sit a game and a half above Belmont, 2.5 ahead of Bradley, and forget everybody else. Over the NEC, it's Long Island, 5-0 in conference play, 1 ahead of Central Connecticut. Over in the OVC, the Ohio Valley, it's University of Tennessee Martin, 7-1, sitting 1 game ahead of Tennessee State and Little Rock. Over in the Patriot League, the Naval Academy and Colgate are both 5-1. Over in the SEC, 4-1 and 4-1 are Texas A&M and Florida. Then there's an enormous cluster of teams fighting for number 3. Over in the SoCon, ETSU 5-1. In the Southland, Stephen F. Austin 8-1. In the Summit, North Dakota State, only undefeated team. In the Sun Belt, the Men of Troy up by 1 over Georgia Southern. In the SWAC, Prairie View tied with Florida A&M. In the West Coast Athletic Conference, Western Athletic Conference, Utah Valley ahead of everybody. West Coast Conference, it's Gonzaga. That's going to do it for the circus today. I'm your ringmaster, Sal. We'll see you in 23 hours right here on your favorite station. Until then, so long, everyone.
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. Beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. Beepinautos.com. BEEPIN autos.com. Beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.
I'm your ringmaster Sal of the Sports Circus, a primetime nationally syndicated television, radio, sports, and entertainment show. The Sports Circus covers topics others are too scared to talk about. There's no other primetime show like it on here that'll punch you in the face and you'll beg for more. Join me, Hall of Famers, world champions, and all-star celebrity guests for chaos and controversy here on Libsyn and all podcast platforms, plus thesportscircus.com. Remember, folks, it's a circus and we prove it every day.